Everybody, this is Brett with the Indie Comics Dispatch and broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep within the Milky Way galaxy. This is Broadcast from the Dispatch. Good evening, everybody. Well, it's just me tonight. My trusty was just me for now, I should say, because my trusty sidekick Tier is on another program this evening. He has a little thing called the Kickstarter running, and he's trying to promote it. And so he will be here in a little while. But right now he's over on Homebrewed Comics on Instagram talking about his Kickstarter for Cypher Team #1. You can find it on any of his social media channels because, again, it's a Kickstarter campaign. So he is eating, drinking, breathing right now, Cypher Team and Kickstarter. So if you haven't already supported that Kickstarter, go support it. And you won't be disappointed. I think he released the variant cover today. I got to see it a little early, and it is awesome. You're going to want this variant cover. Again, Sovereign Comics, Cypher Team #1. And Tier will hopefully still be jumping on later in the broadcast. We'll welcome him on when he gets here. I just want to take a minute to remind you at the top here. Hey, we have a Patreon. We like doing stuff. We like being able to afford to do stuff. If you want us to keep doing stuff for Indie Comics, consider being a patron. You can go to patreon.com/IndieComicsDispatch or just search Indie Comics Dispatch in the Patreon app. X for the C in comics. And the second C, not the first C. That would be weird. And you can support us for as little as $3 a month. And so we reached our 10 patron for initial goal last week. And so we are super excited. We're planning a D&D game. Scorpio's first D&D game will be played live for all of you. We'll record patron-only bonus content for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Trust me. There's been a lot of chat going on about that. Our next patron goal is 20 patrons. Patrons number 11 through 20 are going to get some cool new stickers that I just got in. If you're paying attention to my story, you've seen them. If you want, look at that. It's like my little twin. If you want Tier and I on your laptop, on your tablet, on your phone, you can do that by becoming a patron. Patrons number 11 through 20 get this sticker. They also get a copy of Ayano Stigmata #1 from Sovereign Comics. And so we'll be start mailing that stuff out to patrons 11 through 20. Again, you can become a patron, patreon.com/IndieComicsDispatch. I also want to shout out tonight OnyxCon for my hoodie. OnyxCon is a local Atlanta con and Indie Film Awards show. And gosh, they just have so many stuff going on. If you don't already follow them, follow OnyxCon on Instagram. So many cool stuff. And if COVID's ever not a thing, they'll have OnyxCon in person again, and it'll be great. It'll be wonderful. And we can go to cons again. This evening, jumping into tonight's topic, is our sci-fi night. And I am super dorked out about this because I love sci-fi. Like, I am a sci-fi nerd. Star Trek The Next Generation was my shit growing up. I loved it. And then just all the old sci-fi films and TV series, Lost in Space, the original Lost in Space, and the revival of Lost in Space on Netflix, both awesome. So I am super excited for tonight. We have some of my favorite guests on the show tonight. So I'm going to start by bringing in Thomas. Thomas has been into sci-fi drawing and writing pretty much all his life. His dad got him into it as a kid. He loves mechs and robots and loves to draw them, which is apparent if you've seen his series Raxon Universal Dominion. And that's how it was born and is still evolving by his love for mechs and robots. Thomas, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great. I'm happy for you to be here. And I love mechs. I love robots. I can't wait for us to talk some more about that in just a minute.
Okay.
Next up, we have Luke. Luke is a writer and musician living in New York City. Apocalypse Kinda is his very first comic project and also the name of my favorite comic book name out there right now. created in collaboration with artist Enrico Orlandi and letterer Reed Hinckley Barnes. My mouth has a hard time trying to say that. Welcome, Luke.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, man. Great. I just posted today. I haven't blasted it across social yet, but I just posted the review of Apocalypse Kinda #2 this morning, and God, man, I love that series.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah.
Can people still read issue 1 for free on the site?
Yeah, issue 1 is free if you go to the website.
So go to the website apocalypsekinda.com.
Yeah,
you can read issue 1 for free right now. You're not going to be disappointed, y'all. Go don't stop watching this, but at some point go read. And finally, from his phone in an undisclosed location, we have Alec, a first-time comic creator with a fascination for storytelling. His debut series, graphic novel of Gyro Universe, is out now.
Thanks for having me.
I'm assuming, I've never actually asked you this, Alec, but I'm assuming it's Gyro.
Oh yeah, it's Gyro.
Okay, just making sure it's not Gyro, because that'd be a totally different story.
Yeah, I mean, the cover kind of is a sandwich. I mean, there's a sandwich Earth, so it could get confusing.
Yeah, I saw that on the cover, and I was like, maybe I'm just pronouncing this wrong all this time. But
yeah, I guess maybe if there's any goal with creating the series, it's to just tell people that you're just saying the sandwich name wrong. It's spelled Gyro. We should just call it that.
It's just call it. Love that, gentlemen. And I am so glad you're here because I hope at least, since you're on Sci-Fi 9, since you all kind of have sci-fi-ish books, that you share my love for sci-fi. So we're going to jump in. We're following a new format. If you tuned in last week, it was our first week with a new format. Trying it out again this week, where we jump into a few recent headlines before we jump into the meat of the conversation this evening. Our first one, as I pull up my screen here. Anybody know the name Scott Snyder, perhaps? Scott Snyder has a new series coming out. Nocterra is just the beginning of his new comic mission after his days at DC are done. Nocterra had a $40,000 Kickstarter goal. It was one of his first indie title launched on Kickstarter. $40,000 goal. Ended up making almost $220,000 on Kickstarter.
Wow.
I feel like once you start saying like 40K, is that like indie anymore? Like,
well, that's my question. Like, when you end up having a budget of 40K and you end up having a Kickstarter net of almost $220,000, I think it's $218,000.
Yeah,
is it even indie anymore?
No.
He did Batman, right? I feel like I have a Batman comic that Scott Snyder did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he wrote.
Court of Owls.
He wrote lots of different stuff. His most recent thing was the death metal for DC.
Oh yeah. Gotcha.
And so that's wrapped up. But again, I mean, is this the future of indie right here? Mainstream writers saying, fuck you, Marvel, fuck you, DC, I don't want to be with you guys anymore, and just going and raising hundreds of thousands of dollars on Kickstarter.
I don't see why not.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So, and then how does that end up impacting? Is it trickle down? Does that fall to the smaller creators, or does that steal from the smaller creators in a sense? How do you think that ultimately impacts smaller creators? Not that you guys are small time because you're big time because you're on the Dispatch, but how do you think that affects the true what I'm going to say, the true indie small press creators?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've never run a Kickstarter before, so that's foreign to me. I imagine that if I had run, even just one or several, I might feel a little differently about it. But I think it's a good thing if the people making the stuff can own the stuff that they're making. Mm-hmm. So if Scott Snyder doesn't want to work with one of the big houses, I mean, more power to him. If the enthusiasm is there, I think it could be a good thing,
Yeah. Alec, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see it with like, I feel like you see like other celebrities, like if they have like a radio show or something, they move to do their own podcast because you can do all that stuff with like YouTube on your own. So like, why put a middleman in between it? So I can
Yeah.
totally see more people being able to do that sort of thing because like there's just so much opportunity out there to do it. I don't know how much it really hurts the scene. I'm fairly new to the scene, but I'd have to assume like a big name like his, like people aren't getting it to support indie comics. They're getting it because they like that artist, you know.
Good point. Good point. Thomas, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. Was like, you're already a name brand person, so you're going to have a following of people behind you that are going to be wanting to see what you're going to create. So for everybody that may have been a follower of him already, and seeing him in that industry, probably a Kickstarter for him probably was no problem. I did a Kickstarter once in my life, and I wound up pulling it because I wasn't ready. I kind of jumped the gun on a little bit and listening to some of the wrong people and threw it out closer to the date. And then I started learning the hard way that a lot of people who would say, "Oh yeah, when you get it started, let me know." Nowhere to be found. But I'm sure if I would have been somebody who said, "Okay, yeah, I drew for Marvel or DC or Dark Horse," yeah, I wouldn't have to worry about just friends and family. It would have been tons of other people, and who knows where it would go from that point on. So yeah, with that, I can see it being for those who are already known, stepping out of those name brand companies to do their own thing. I can see them getting followers big time. Their Kickstarter's funded pretty much probably the same day. As for myself, yeah.
I think he made the $40,000 goal within a day or two. Like, it was fast.
Yeah.
And then we wanted to make 5 times that.
Maybe we just need to coin a different name for like what it is, because I guess they're independent artists, but like
This is an argument I always have, and I think I've come to accept it. In my mind, indie is not Image, it's not IDW. Those are creator-owned titles published by a major publishing house. But other people argue with me and say, no, those are independent because the creator can independently create what they want. I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer, but I like what Aaron Down from Catalyst Comics says, is that what y'all do is small press comics. It's indie press comics versus the larger indie comics that are out there.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Aaron's a smart guy. Sometimes. Dan Schmidt, author of Worms Crawling, which is such a fantastic book, and he's a regular listener of the show. Dan, we really appreciate you. As long as he's doing it on his own, good for Snyder. I kind of agree. I just wonder how it's going to affect the rest of the indie game.
I wonder, though, I mean, does it really, like, if you're somebody who's just starting out and you're doing a Kickstarter, like, I think that you're going to have the problems you're going to have whether Scott Snyder is doing a Kickstarter or not. Like, is he sort of sucking up the oxygen? Like, I don't know that that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah, he may not be. In fact, he may be calling more people there. You go there to back Scott Snyder, and then you see the magic feed that Kickstarter has, and end up supporting a couple other projects. That's very true. It could happen that way too.
Yeah.
So kind of the reverse of Scott, big publisher, creator, coming into the indie scene. Recently, Unique Studios made news because they penned a deal with Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Huge news. Roy has been doing stuff on his own for forever now, and he did a deal with Dark Horse. And it's going to be Dark Horse's first non-franchise catalog of Black characters. And so it's amazing what Roy's doing. But Roy's been amazing the frontiers of indie comics for a while. So I mean, come on, like, this is everybody's dream, right? As an indie creator, that a major publisher picks you up, buys your characters, you get to keep creating. Not really buys your characters, gets the rights to republish what you've already done, and you're just paid for it. So this is everybody's dream. What are the potential pitfalls here, though? So, like, I mean, it's everybody's dream, but what should what should Thomas, Luke, and Alec be looking out for when Dark Horse comes knocking on y'all's door next?
Contracts.
Yeah, I guess something like that, legal things that like we wouldn't know about, I guess. But I don't know. That's pretty awesome for him. I like, and for anybody, I guess the only thing you'd think about is if you're like, if somebody gets your title like that, it changes. Like for me, I know like I'm still starting. I'm still kind of getting my grip on things. I don't know how fast I can get another issue out. Like it's going to take me like, I don't know. I released my issue 1 in January, and I'm like, fastest I get the next one out is by August. As fast as I can do it.
Lost in the indie world, man.
Yeah, I mean, but that's me like all the way foot on the gas, like going,
Yeah.
and and that's like I've had the writing done. It's just getting like the colorist and my illustrator on there, and then I got to go through and edit it and everything. So that would be my concern, just like how fast can I get it out? Because they want to know. It's like issue 2 comes out when? Okay, but when's issue 3?
Yeah. And so I do wonder, I think it's for his catalog, but I do wonder how fast they're expecting him to keep pumping out new work. And Roy, to his credit, pumps out new work pretty quickly. I don't know how the man does it, but he does it. So yeah. I do want to plug this real quick, Alec. I've read Gyro Universe and I love it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Like you said, it just recently released. It's on Amazon. You guys can go order it. So do that if you haven't yet. Thomas, you got any thoughts on Roy?
It's definitely a good thing. Especially if you definitely want to have, like I said, legal look at everything to make sure that you don't have something and then they wind up changing little things here and there, and you don't have the creative control that you thought you might have had. You looked at everything because they'll sell you a dream and you'll just be so happy to have yourself out there, and they're like, we're going to make this little change right here, and find out it changes the whole dynamic of your story. That would be my only fear. But still, if it was offered to me that same thing with my stuff, I'd be like, oh wow, okay, Dark Horse. You mean from where Aliens and Predator comic books that I was in love with came from? Oh yeah, let's get this done. How fast you need what? I sell them my whole universe.
Well, let's talk about Raxon for a minute. How many books you got out there for Dark Horse? Dark Horse watches this. The CEO or whatever. I don't even know who heads it.
Quick, Google the name.
Yeah. How many books you got out there?
I have currently 12 comic books. And the first comic book was the shortest one. It's the only one that's in black and white. The other 11 are in full color, 34 pages a piece. And I have a source book. That's 270, I think 78 pages. That tells pretty much like the whole story of what's going on in Raxon. And it's source book number 1 of, there's going to be about 8 or 9. So let's just say I have built a universe already, and pretty much the majority of the drawings are in all of those books already. It's just now it's information input time, into all those books, and then also editing them and everything like that. And also working with my business partner, Damone Emerson, who I couldn't be here without, been going over everything and, just putting stuff together. So it's like, and when we made them, we did great at conventions. We pretty much sold out of everything. Online, we're terrible. I'm terrible with social media. I work a lot. And when I get online, it's like, I got comic books. You want to see them? But yeah, I'm terrible with that. But yeah, got 12 comics, all in the Raxon. And we're actually working on the next 12 to 14 comics as we speak. My first year that I did it, my goal was to crank out all 12 in 1 year. I managed to get 7. And that was only because I learned the hard way with some commissioners. I got screwed by one, and another one kind of gave me the run around going slow.
Thomas,
So-
did you say you did 7 books in 1 year?
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's a
Whoa!
Yeah, ranked out 7.
And you were disappointed? Are you like?
No, I wasn't disappointed. Because when everybody was telling me, when I went to one event, they were like, "You did 7 in 1 year?" Yeah, and I'm new to everything, so I'm thinking, what was I supposed to try to do more? Was that too little? They're like, I can't even get 1 a year. I'm like, oh, okay.
You're like Prince. You're putting out 1 million a year.
I just went all into it, it was like, okay, let's get this done, and I probably was driving my commissioners crazy because they were probably like, you just finished this one. You ready for me to start this next one? Yes, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. And I mean, it was fun because I really enjoy it. I've had brain lock for the past since this COVID stuff has hit with working, but I'm trying to get them out of my head because I got my whole story from beginning to end and how it ends. And it's a lot of comic books. So it's like, they're not going to write themselves. And as you can see with all this gray on my head, I'm not the youngest. So trying to get it done, as much as possible. But I was going to try to shoot for another 12 this year. Then my business partner was like, you going to try that again? Like, yeah, let me rethink on everything that I've learned from this and slow it down. But it's Tyrone's fault. It's Tyrone's fault.
I think you talk. I can tell exactly why you and Tyrone are friends. Because the source book and the page counts and all that stuff. It rings true. So okay, last news article, and then we'll jump into the meat of sci-fi. But this is kind of starts getting us there. This is from Sci-Fi Wire. So we're hitting the right source. 10 new sci-fi shows we're excited to watch in 2021. I don't know that I agree that Superman's a sci-fi show. I mean, he is an alien, but I think
Lord of the Rings also.
Yeah. But I am excited for Loki. I am excited for the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm excited for Why the Last Man, which are all made this list. What shows are you currently excited about, or are watching right now that you just really love that fit the sci-fi genre?
Can I interrupt real quick though?
Yeah.
You said you don't know if Superman classifies. Does Loki not classify too? Isn't that like the same thing? Because people say like Thor's like the god of thunder, but I was like, Thor's an alien. Like he's just from a different planet. So wouldn't Loki be one too?
I'm just expecting maybe some weirder stuff from Loki.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe that's why I immediately omitted. But Superman's going to be kind of that classic, I think. And
yeah,
I
think you're right about that.
Wait, no. But you're right. Loki probably is that superhero genre more so. Also, so what true sci-fi shows are you excited about, or currently excited about that you're watching right now?
Anybody else want to go first, or? I don't know. I just started watching The Mandalorian. I only saw the first episode. I haven't had Disney Plus, so I'm pretty excited for that. Because like you just know it just keeps getting better. Like I've only heard great things, so I'm pretty excited about that. And hearing about Boba Fett is pretty cool too. But I heard a while ago that Obi-Wan was going to get a show. Like Ian McGregor doing it too.
Is that ever going to happen? Yeah, that's something that you were always hearing about, but
they don't want to break Disney Plus.
Keep talking. I'm going to Google Obi-Wan series and see if that's really happening or not.
I hope so.
I feel like that was like the headline show that they had in the pipeline. Yeah, like they were like, and we're doing the Obi-Wan show, but it's like, I feel like that was like 5 years ago that they've been talking about that.
Yeah.
Okay, it is real, and potentially Darth Maul's and Hayden Christensen's gonna be back as Darth Vader. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe
Wait,
without
there's
George
going to be a Darth Maul show, or Darth Maul is going to be in
Lucas
Obi-Wan?
be on the Obi-Wan show. It sounds like. So I'm in late 2021 or early 2022. So that counts as one I'm excited about.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think Resident Alien sounds interesting. I'd never heard of this. The sci-fi thing on Sci-Fi Channel?
Yeah. It's got who's it got in that? It's all that
Alan Tudyk, guy
Yeah.
from Firefly. Yeah.
it looks
He's always great.
pretty funny too.
Linda
Oh,
Hamilton
wow.
from Terminator.
Mm-hmm. Top of a picture.
I always thought the Sci-Fi Channel had underrated TV shows.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
that's
wonder if
the case, but I do. Resident Alien.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen trailers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sci-fi show did have some good, like Firefly was great, and then it just got done dirty. Like they took it off so fast. But like, and The Expanse got taken off of Sci-Fi Channel too, but Jeff Bezos brought that one back, so we can thank him. So maybe we can count on him for some other good content.
Maybe. What's you got watching or looking out for?
Well, I have to say I had no idea this was happening either, even though I don't know why it's on the list of sci-fi shows. This Lord of the Rings TV show, I had no idea they were doing that.
Series, isn't it?
It's an adaptation of the book. Oh, okay, so it's stories before the events of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Amazon's doing it too. I heard they had like some crazy freaking budget for that show too.
Well, they must, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting if they did a Lord of the Rings prequel series that was just really boring. It was just a lot of sitting around at home.
I mean, probably. And they could. It seems like that's one of those things they could easily screw up.
Yeah.
Easily.
And they might.
Let's take a pivot here and get into our Q&A here. If you're out there watching this, you have your favorite sci-fi shows, your favorite sci-fi books, whatever. Comment it. If you have questions for our panel, comment it, and we will get to it at the end of the show. But so let's start with a very simple question. What got you into sci-fi? What was it? Like for me, like I said at the intro, it was Star Trek: The Next Generation was really what really got me geeking out about sci-fi.
Yeah.
But what was it for you? Was it a book? Was it a show? Was it a movie? Thomas, why don't we start with you?
For me, it's two things. So Halo, number one. Like that was like the best video game when I was a kid. Like even still now, it's great. Halo, and then Star Wars. Phantom Menace was the first movie I saw in theaters when I was younger.
Oh, wow.
So, I remember, at least the first one I remember. I might have seen others, but I remember going to see the Phantom Menace. So Star Wars and Halo are the two for me.
I don't know.
I'm sorry?
How do you feel about the Phantom Menace now?
Well, I'll say it's not the worst one. What's his name? Who's the guy? Super annoying voice. I can't remember.
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks. Thank you. Sorry, it was just evading my mind real quick. That's tough. He doesn't even need to be in there. I don't know why he's there. They could have made it to the city without him. But there's at least some redeeming moments in that. Like the pod race is sweet, and then there's like the 30-minute Darth Maul fight at the end, which is awesome. And 6-year-old Anakin takes out an entire fleet. That's pretty awesome stuff. It gets worse with like Attack of the Clones. That's like tough. You can watch that on mute easier than you can watch it with
that's true.
No.
Attack of the Clones was bad. Tom, what got you into sci-fi?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, since I'm probably the oldest one here, it started off with me with the the cartoon Battle of the Planets when I was a kid. And when I first saw Star Wars at the movies, the very first one that came out at the movies, 1970 something, and Alien, which I begged my parents to take us to go see, and it was one of the biggest mistakes in my life that I still love to today. Scared the crap out of me and made me love it at the same time. And it's like those kind of got me going, as a kid into sci-fi, and I just never stopped. It's just like it's just whenever they come up with sci-fi shows, I try to look at them to see if I like them or not, and go from there. And like Star Wars, yeah, some of those last movies were just like, yeah, I should have went and saw those for free. I should have waited.
Disney doesn't know what the Force is. I'm convinced.
Oh man, I was just like, huh? Was that what? Oh, okay. So this is what we're doing now. Okay, somebody get rid of Kathleen Kennedy in here. Somebody get rid of her. And but one of my favorite sci-fi shows has always been Babylon 5. That's one of my favorites.
I love Babylon.
It's like when I first saw the first episode and they said they did that with an Apple computer, how they made all the ships and everything. I was like, wow, okay, that's different.
What's it called?
Babylon 5.
Babylon 5.
Babylon.
Yeah. Babylon 5. Okay, I actually have.
I can say, come on, Alec, come on, man.
Is everything in it, and it's some good politics and some very good acting, and even though a lot of the actors and actresses have passed, but it's still one of my favorite.
That was a good series. It was a really good series. Luke, what got you into sci-fi?
Yeah, well, I mean, Star Wars is just sort of a universal entry point, I feel like. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. When I was little, I mean, I wonder what it's like to be like a little kid, like to be 12 years old now or 8 or 9 years old now. I feel like I might have been in that last generation of kids where you could see Star Wars and never have seen anything like it, So, big fan of that. Really, the thing probably when I was a little kid that was most important to me, weirdly, were the Planet of the Apes movies. Yeah, I just loved those. I got into it because I was a big Tim Burton fan when I was little. So he did the remake in 2001 or whenever it was, and I loved that. But my dad said, well, if you love that, you'll love these. So, and I did. I just thought those were incredible. I still love those a lot. Yeah.
Very good. I do the Planet of the Apes movies. I remember watching those with my uncle. Those were really good too.
They're great. They've got great acting. And it was one of the few film series for as long as it went on. Like that original series is like 5 or 6 movies. Every movie is so different. They never stopped finding new stuff to do. So I'm a big fan.
So taking that and then drilling down to what maybe TV and movies have influenced your work, your particular books, what would you say?
Me?
Alec, anybody can go. Alec, I'm interested about your influences because like I said in the review that I did of your book, I felt like there were some influences from some sci-fi movies of years gone by, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know if I pulled anything from any specific, ones. Like obviously, like Star Wars has a complete imprint on me, just because I look at it and I break it down to A New Hope. From A New Hope, everything came from that. Like there's those. Disney's gonna milk it until they can't anymore, and that will just be when there's an actual apocalypse, because they'll do it forever, and you could just build off it forever. So Star Wars I try to do something where there's constant room to make stuff up, So is that from that point of view. And then like Avatar, like The Last Airbender, and even Korra, as far as like world building and character development, I look at that show and every time I'm just like on the rewatch and just like, wow, like they start like, for example, you've guys seen Avatar, right?
Mhm.
The Last Airbender, of course. The lion turtle doesn't make it in. Spoilers. The lion turtle doesn't make it into the last episode, but they mention it on like episode 2. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Just little things like that. So I love the world building and the character development in that show. So good.
Thomas, what kind of shows or movies maybe influenced the Raxon universe?
As far as TV shows, I got into anime like when the Sci-Fi Channel to me used to be good when it had Sci-Fi Saturday Anime. But even before that, it was Robotech when it first came on TV, and that was like in the 80s, and that became my soap opera. You know, it was like it had everything in it, even though learned as an adult that a lot of anime that came over to the US, people they bought it thinking it was for kids. And then you find up seeing that's not a kid situation. But I love Robotech and I loved all the dynamics of it. You know, yeah, when you look at it now, you can be like, okay, some of these dubs are horrible, but it still was a good, good things that was happening. And that influenced me a lot, with my mech drawings, because it was like the first one that really caught my attention the hardest, with a whole series, even though it was 3 different stories that they mashed into one, but it's still, it was still able to captivate me as a kid, and even to today, I still like it. I don't like the newer ones too much, but the original one I love. And like I said, was it Al or Luke said, both of y'all, Star Wars: A New Hope, you can't go wrong with that, And Empire Strikes Back, introducing the Superstar Destroyer, that was always the best scene to me, that movie. But those were pretty much like my biggest influencers with a lot of things there.
Luke, what I gotta know what it has influenced Apocalypse kind of.
It's kind of hard to say what influences you, because like the stuff that you like isn't always the stuff that influences you,
Mm-hmm.
I in terms of like sci-fi stuff, probably Samurai Jack on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
Would probably be the sci-fi thing that I could point to that had the most direct influence on Apocalypse kinda. I just remember when I was a little kid watching that, I just never seen anything like that before. It was such a mix of like highbrow stuff and lowbrow stuff. It was sort of sophisticated. It was funny. There would be entire episodes where nobody would say a word. He just managed to cram so much different stuff into that, So that would probably be the one, if I had to point to like one thing, like when we're working on Apocalypse kinda, if I'm thinking to myself, like, is there anything that, like, Hope Against Hope, it could just be as cool as that, I would probably say Samurai Jack.
That's awesome. Another show there's not enough of.
Yeah. Back when Cartoon Network used to be good also.
Well, hey now, I mean, do you still watch it?
No.
They've still got good stuff on there.
I know, Mike. We can talk about how old I am later. So best sci-fi comic that you've read, other than your own, you can't name your own. Best sci-fi comic you've read. It can be indie or otherwise. Bonus points for indie. We'll take score points. They don't matter for anything. Best sci-fi comic.
Okay, well, hold on just a second, because I have to remind myself what it's called. I have to get it off the shelf.
That's what I was doing. I was turning around. I haven't read it. I did read this one, actually. I'll give him a shout out. So Mecha Organic, this is another indie creator.
Indie
I
has
met on
in comics.
I met Ariel on Instagram. We just chatted about the creative process and what have you. And it's like an anthology series. I think he's going to build off in the second one, but there's some really cool art in there. Like I love all that trippy stuff. It just like gets you like what is like whoa. It gets you going like that. So I would say that definitely had a lot in it. I enjoyed it.
Luke, what'd you grab there, man?
Okay, so is this the best that I've ever read? I don't know that I could say it's the best. It's the one that I'm reading right now that I'm really, really loving. And it's this thing from Stonebot Comics called Zira.
Oh.
And it's about a chimp who's being tested on in a lab. And she escapes. And she goes on this... It involves mechs, so, I mean, Thomas, you might be interested in this. Yeah, she gets into, like, a mechanized suit. And it's just, I mean, like I said, I love Planet of the Apes. I have a soft spot for, like, the... Anytime there's a monkey or a chimpanzee and they get their revenge on the crappy humans, like, I'm there for that. But then I also read this year something that Alice Cott and Trad Moore did. I don't know if it was through Image or what, but it's called The New World. Have you heard of that? It was like a 5-issue thing. You might know it if you saw it. But I read that this year, and it's sort of a speculative sci-fi kind of imagining what America might be like, 60 or 50 years from now if we keep heading the way that we're heading. But that was great. It had really beautiful art. So those are the two that I would hype up.
Thomas, what about you?
As far as outside of indie, it was Dark Horse's Aliens Earth War. That was like, one of my favorites because I was collecting all of the original Aliens and Predator comics and those Dark Horse in between issues, little small ones in Dark Horse Presents. But Alien Earth War was one that I liked, pretty much one of my favorites because it was like just imagining aliens on Earth, which is like the biggest nightmare ever, and that happened in the books. And it was like, whoa, okay, this would be a good movie or TV show. As far as indies go, I haven't had a lot of indie comics because I'm still kind of new to it. I don't want to cheat by saying to somebody whose comics that I know of and be reading because I helped design some stuff in them. I'm gonna say, Orisha X is one of my favorites from Tyrone.
Yeah,
because that one is just like, I'm like, come on, man, I want to finish it. Want to see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, Orisha Exos is really good. If you guys out there haven't read it, again, Sovereign Comics, he's got a Kickstarter right now. We'll shout him out again because he's my co-host and I can. Yeah. So let's talk, because two of you have a very clear apocalypse themed book. Thomas, I've not read Raxon yet. I'm gonna because I want to. So I'm not sure if you have a
which one? How many is there?
Let's talk the apocalypse for a moment. Why do you think the end of humanity captivates us so much?
Because everybody's sick of going to work.
You're happy going to work. I've been working from home for a year now.
Yeah, I guess I'm same. I work right here.
But I mean, true. I mean, we're tired of our lives. Maybe. What else? Why does the apocalypse captivate us?
I think it's just an extension of a fascination that we have with death. It's inevitable. At some point, the sun, if I can remember third grade science class, the sun is going to expand and the universe is going to implode, or however it's going to be. Everything's going to end eventually, but you're not going to be there when it happens. So I think there is kind of a morbid fascination about, well, especially given all of the problems in our society, you know, with climate change or any number of other things, it seems like the end might be nearer than it otherwise would be. But, you know, going back, you know, as far back as you can go, you talk about like A New Hope, like those stories that every other story comes out of. I mean, from the beginning of time, people have been telling basically two stories of the creation of the universe and stories about the end of the universe. I mean, the Bible has that, you know, the Vikings had that, ancient Egypt, they had a great one, you know, so it's just kind of, as long as humans have been telling stories, that's just sort of been a story that we've been telling.
To go off that a little bit, I would say history is a big reason why, like antiquity history, like so ancient history, because like I was always fascinated, like everybody else, like ancient Egypt or Greece and Rome, like all those civilizations that ended. So for me, it's like when I think of the apocalypse, I don't think there's you build from it. Like if there's people still there, it's not like there's a real apocalypse where that's the end of the world, you know. It's just like it sets you back. Mm-hmm. So you think about all the knowledge that we might have lost back then from 30 million years ago, whenever or whatever kingdom was back there and doesn't exist anymore. So it's something like, for me, it's like it's that type of thing. It's like
that's true, because most of the apocalypse that we're fascinated by stories, the apocalyptic stories that we're fascinated by, there's a human surviving contingent that goes on to rebuild. Maybe if humanity was just snuffed out and there was no story, we would think that sucked.
It wouldn't be as interesting, for sure.
Thomas, you got any words of apocalypse to add for us?
Apocalypse stories are always pretty cool because, you know, it's like you're just wondering, how are they going to make it, you know, and what will their lives be like? You know, will they ever rebuild? Will it ever get any better? You know, or is it, this is just it? You know, when it get down to the last two people, who goes first and who's the last person? You know, but it's always those little things in there. You just be looking at the shows or, you know, or books or everything and just be wondering like, okay, man, no more toothpaste and toilet paper. What happens now? You know, what if the water's dirty and you can't drink it? You know, just a lot of things. And that fascinates me when, you know, to see how can somebody write a story that can weather through so many different things, and you just be like on a roller coaster ride. And I like them. I like apocalyptic stories.
Have you guys seen, this is an indie film actually, Save Yourselves?
No, what is this?
I saw that, but I didn't see it.
This movie, I think you can watch it free off of Amazon. So if you have Amazon, look it up. So this couple goes out into the middle of nowhere to kind of reconnect. They turn their phones off for the weekend, and while their phones are turned off in the rural upper state New York wilderness, the apocalypse starts happening. These aliens, these fuzzy aliens, and I don't want to spoil the ending, but the ending is not your typical apocalyptic ending. So watch it. It's probably the best apocalypse movie I've watched recently, and it is very intriguing. Very, very.
I'll have to check it out.
Yep.
It just shows you we're lost without our phones. We can't do it.
Yeah.
But what would have been different? Like if they had their phones, they would have just like, I guess we're just gonna stay here. Like there's no point in going back.
The movie just kind of would have ended like, oh shit, apocalypse.
Man, I gotta work tomorrow? Are you kidding me?
2 payments away from car. Like I'm gonna be like 2 payments away from paying off my house and the apocalypse. Sci-fi tropes that you love or hate. What sci-fi tropes out there that you were like, dude, I'm including this in my book, or like this is stupid. Everybody does this. I'm not doing this in my book.
I'll start it off. I'm just a big fan of the, like, it's like done to death, but I've just never seen it done in a way that I'm not like, give me more of that. It's just the HAL 9000 scumbag robot. You know? I love that. Anytime there's a robot with like a measured English accent telling you that he can't do something, you know, I love that.
No.
You need to have it if you like, even because like obviously 2001, but then Interstellar brought one of those things back too. Like, I do enjoy those as well. I don't know if I really hate any of them. You know, it just depends how it's done for me.
Right.
I'm sorry?
I said that's a good point.
Yeah.
That sometimes you do it.
For me, I'm just gonna say I love sci-fi movies, shows, but the things that I say I would not put in mind if I ever get a show or anime. Y'all might be mad at me for this, but it's the unnecessary sex scenes that come out of nowhere in sci-fi. I can't stand that. It's like, okay, you just saw half your friends slaughtered. You're in a apocalyptic situation, and you're going to start ripping each other's clothes off.
So when's the last time you showered? Like, this is zombies going on for like 9 years, and I haven't seen you shower once.
When was the last time you brushed your teeth? Use flush, you know, and they're kissing and everything, and I'm like, yeah, let somebody in my family die. I'm not thinking about sex right now, you know. Like, you see, your whole block is gone, half the city's destroyed, or half the planet's destroyed, and you're about to get on a ship and just have sex, you know.
So to be fair, you don't know all the crap that person's going in, like that's happened so far. You're just probably just like, well, I guess, you know, like how many bad decisions you make in your life.
Okay, now somebody has to argue the pro position for unnecessary sex scenes in sci-fi movies. Like it's like debate club or something. I think it's great. I thought that when they did that special edition of Star Wars, the one thing that I thought they should have added in that they didn't was more sex.
Not that Millennial Falcon. Things get a little lonely.
Han shoots first.
So, it's okay. I think I know this, but Star Wars or Star Trek?
All right, now we're really. This is going to get intense.
Oh man. I'm gonna say just Will Riker.
Yeah, until The Mandalorian, I have been Star Trek. Now, The Mandalorian is some damn good TV.
Oh yeah.
We move fully over to Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Being said, I've not watched Star Trek Discovery since it's been on CBS All Access or whatever, because I don't want to pay for another streaming service.
Yeah, I never got into Star Trek, and it's not really because I didn't like it. Like I guess I've tried. They put them all on Netflix, and I watched a couple of the original ones with William Shatner the other day, just to do it, to see where it came from. And I mean, I didn't hate it. I just didn't get into it, you know, as much. I didn't like, oh, I gotta put on episode 3 now, and not go to bed and keep watching this. But Star Wars is it for me. But again, that was the first movie I saw when, like, in theaters. Video games have always been great with Star Wars too, so it's always had that.
If you're a gamer,
and comics as well. But I will say, Disney doesn't know what the Force is. I know we talked about that. Like, I haven't seen the rest of the Mandalorian. They clearly don't have to worry about it. I don't think, but they don't know what the Force is. So it just like they got the feel for it. You know, they got that original feel, but. No way that you can just block yourself off from the Force, Luke, and not know that Rey is like the strongest Jedi there ever was, and she's standing in front of you, and he's just like, "Who are you?" Like, Yoda knew who Anakin was going to be Darth Vader when he was 6. Like, how do you not know that Rey's a powerful Jedi?
Now, I do think John Favreau, who writes Mandalorian, I think he knows what the Force is. So I think he might be informing Disney because
Yeah.
Star Wars, Star Trek, you have to pick a side.
Yeah, I feel like this, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I don't want to do the cop-out answer, but I feel like, this talk about Prince, this is like Michael Jackson and Prince to me. It's like, I feel like the similarities begin and end with their sci-fi. Like, they're so different otherwise. Star Wars is like big, sweeping emotions. It's like operatic. It's big, simple ideas, The themes are really simple and strong. And then Star Trek is so much more, like, as far as these things go, it's like really more of a thinking person's kind of, it's much more about, like, I had never seen before. This past year, I started watching Deep Space Nine, and it's like so much about politics and ideas. I was really like sitting there some days like, wow, this show is getting heavy. So yeah. I don't know. I think that the one thing that I'll say, like, I like Star Wars, but I'm kind of like, at this point, after like 3 or 4 good years of it, I'm so tired of everybody in society fighting about Star Wars. Which ones suck and which ones are good, and that one blows and this one's better. Nobody ever seems to fight about Star Trek. Like, you never see anybody just jumping down each other's throats about. So I don't know. I'm going to give conditional support to Star Trek this time. I'm going to take that.
That's a very good answer. That's a good way to
give it conditional support.
Danny, echoing your sentiments, Luke, Star Trek and Star Wars are very different concepts and can be enjoyed separately and equally, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But Thomas, if you had to pick one.
Babylon 5.
Right. But if I had to pick one between Star Wars and Star Trek, I'd probably have to say Star Trek myself because I mean, you have a lot more in Star Trek. It's like, how can I say this? It's like if you were just, let's say, somebody who's just brand new to sci-fi and you don't know you're just trying to get into something. It's like Coke and Pepsi. Star Wars, Pepsi, Star Trek, Coke. One you saw at the movies that blew everybody's minds. Big budgets, everything like that. You see Star Trek at the movies, they're cool, But on TV, you get more bang for your buck with Star Trek because you got Star Trek, then Next Generation, then Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. I mean, all telling history, over all these years, and different things and how they tie everything into each other. They may start off a little slow at times, but they have ways of bringing it in when they have their wars, and it's like, yeah, they don't get too complicated, where you dealing with different things that are just like, why are we okay? They keep everything pretty much consistent, even though some of these newer ones, not so much, but I'd have to go with Star Trek.
Let me ask you, let me say 2 things, actually. First of all, I think Star Wars is way more of a Coke than Star Trek. I just say that. Because I was also a waiter and a bartender for a period of time, and we had Pepsi products. And like some people who they're like, oh, I guess I'll have Pepsi. But the people who like Pepsi are like, I don't want your fucking Coke. Like I want Pepsi. Like, so I feel like that could apply for your analogy. But if you had to say, like, what Star Trek, excuse me for swearing, but Pepsi and Coke get pretty heated. I don't know if you've ever been in the service industry, but it's intense. But what Star Trek would you start with? Like if you had a show to watch, because I want to get into it, I just never did.
I say start from the beginning.
Really?
Just start with Kirk and just go on into it.
They're all separate, so I think you could really dive into any of them. My personal favorite was always Deep Space Nine, but I don't know. I love Next Generation, but going into Deep Space Nine, I truly loved Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I mean, I started watching with the Next Generation, and I liked it. But I would agree that for me, like Deep Space Nine was really the one that I was like, oh wow, this is something else. Because the characters on Deep Space Nine compared to the Next Generation, they butt heads a lot more. They're not as like the Next Generation can be everything can be a little too copacetic sometimes, you know. But I think they're cool. They're fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, Al, you are the weakest link.
But Star Wars is awesome. But Star Wars is awesome. They're both awesome.
Right.
Coke and Pepsi are both great.
and Babylon 5, I should have thrown that one in there because I love Babylon 5 too. A little piece of dork history about Brett. When I was early college, I guess, I ran a play by email online RPG of Babylon 5 versus Star Trek.
Wow.
You know, it was real deep storytelling there. So who are some, fellow creators you're following right now that you think everybody else should? Before we wrap things up for the evening, let's give some shout outs to people that you think other people should be following.
So I know he does reviews for the Dispatch as well. I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it Ennead? Ennead. Okay, that's what it is. Ennead. That's what it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His page is so good. I look at his Instagram page and his Kickstarter, and I'm just like, what am I? I'm doing everything wrong. Like I look, because I have my story and everything I'm super confident about. And but as far as I look at his posts and everything, how thought out it is, I'm just like, that's so good. Like he's got it down. So if anybody is looking to show the part, that guy is doing it. So you should probably check out his page.
Yeah, and he's got a Kickstarter coming in March for issue 2.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. Yeah, Jeffrey Johnson, he's a good guy. Who else?
Yeah, well, my two are not sci-fi, if I can be a little sacrilegious, but
Probably, yes.
I would. I have a friend named Anna Meyer who does a webcomic called Saint Catherine, which is sort of like a slice of life, also deals with some demonic possession, but I think it's a lot of fun and it looks great. And then someone who I met recently who just goes by PJ Draws on Instagram, they've got a comic that they do called Lost Folk. That's also sort of, it's very funny and kind of like a fantasy type thing, but those are two people who I think are really cool and really encourage people to look at.
Yeah. And I think PJ he's maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's fairly young.
Yeah, they're pretty young. They're in Scotland, but very talented.
Yeah. Thomas?
Like I said, I'm still getting new to following people's stuff. But a few people, one guy, I can't always forget his name. Is it Keith Jones? He does a comic called Judas Breed, which is pretty interesting to me. He's been doing little Kickstarters for it. I think he's got about 4 comics out that he's put out over the few years. Also, Jarvis Sheffield, he did a book. I'm trying to remember the name of his book. I can't remember it off the top. But he was one who also got me involved into everything, doing books and everything. But he's also the owner of Black Science Fiction Society. It's a website. Pretty cool website. A lot of artists on there. Tyrone Jackson.
Who did we make as a Kickstarter going on right now?
Yeah. He keeps rolling them out, and I'm like, I can't stand you. I can't think of a lot of people because, like I said, I haven't gotten to a lot of people's works, and I'm still. It's like I get hit with a lot of people's stuff, and I'm like, okay, I can't buy everybody's books, even though I would love to. But it's like just trying to find which ones genres that really catch my attention, because I don't want to buy somebody's book and then just to buy it and throw it on, just set it in a stack. I want to enjoy it and read it, and share it. So I'm slowly getting into more people's, stuff. So it's like, send me stuff, send me your books, show me some links where I can get your stuff. And yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, guys, I want to wrap this up by saying thank you so much for being here this evening.
Yeah.
I love sci-fi, and so this has been fun just to sit and talk sci-fi. And so thank you guys. We have next week on the show, we have Ask the Expert. So if you're out there listening to this after the fact on the podcast, come with questions next week, because we're going to have some big, been in the game a long time comic creators on the show, and they're going to be there just to answer your questions. So tune in next week for that. Tomorrow night, Quentin's Engine Works episode 3 will be on. Jamie Sullivan, a comic book artist, he will be on with Quentin at 8 p.m. Pacific, I think. So if you're on Eastern, it's getting kind of late. But hey, they live on the West Coast, so that's their time. So tune in if you can tomorrow night, or watch it after the fact on YouTube or Facebook. Thomas, Al, Luke, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it, guys. If you don't follow these gentlemen, go follow them, buy their stuff, support them in any way you can. We'll link everything in the show notes afterwards. I'll post in the comments so that people can find your stuff. Everybody out there, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me, Brent.